I grew up in a really small town in South Carolina. Was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, because the town that I was that I grew up in. This town was so small that there was no hospital, so we had to drive across the state line to get to a hospital. And yeah, so my mom was 16 when she had me, and my dad was around the same age. And my mom, decided, praise God, to keep me, because it would have been, you know, an easy an easy thing to do, to say, well, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this. I don't want to do this alone. But for her, that was never an option. And I was born, grew up in this small town, and what was interesting and kind of unique about the relationship that I had with my dad was that he was never in my life, never in my home, but the town was so small that he was in close enough proximity where I would see him. I would see him at the grocery store, gas station, so on. And as I was, when I was young, it was confusing. As I got older, it became something that created a lot of bitterness in me, created a lot of feeling of inadequacy. And someone who has a high achiever personality, which is a good thing if it drives you towards operating in excellence and having great work ethic. But if it causes you to believe the lie that you need to earn your worth, you need to prove yourself so that you're validated. It's a very tiring and endless cycle. But that's where I was. So I thought, well, I gotta make the best grades. I gotta be the best athlete on the team. And when I was 13 or 14, the summer when I was 13, right before I was about to turn 14, I met a modeling agent,
Mhm.
and very quickly started doing that. So started modeling. I really had a desire to get into acting, and that was really basketball, modeling, and acting. Like that was everything I did. That was all the energy that I spent. But I didn't realize at the time how many sacrifices my mom was having to make for me to go to acting classes, to get new headshots, to get new basketball shoes, to go to basketball camps, like all these things. Because she was a single mom working in a restaurant in a small town. So she's working 60, 70 hours a week so that I can live a life that looks like the people around me. And this behavior continued as I went to college, where I thought, okay, I've got to seek affirmation from other people to fill the gap that I had in my heart.
Yeah.
And that led me to partying, drinking, being very promiscuous. And as I'm doing that, I'm in college, I'm studying theater, and I thought, well, it makes sense to me if I want to be devoted to being in the entertainment industry, where I want to be modeling, I want to be acting, I want to be doing all this stuff. That's my career, that's my life. It made sense for me to move to Hollywood. I
Okay.
thought I moved to closer to the industry, it'll be easy. I'll make it.
Right.
And I was lucky. A lot of people move out there, struggle to get an agent, struggle to get any kind of representation, any traction. But the day I moved out there, I had set up an interview with an agency, and they signed me on the spot. And I started doing auditions, started taking improv classes, and often at like an improv class or an acting class, there's coaches there and there's a community there, and often you make it based on the relationships you have, because if you have relational equity, they'll make an introduction, and that's how you often find success in that industry. But all the time, all the while you're doing that, while you're chasing the dream, you've got to mediate the expenses. So everyone in, Miami, New York, LA, wherever you might be, while you're chasing your dream, you got to pay your bills on top of that.
Yeah.
So I was working in a restaurant, and I'm working at this restaurant, and three girls come in, and they say, "Hey, have you ever considered acting?" And I thought, great, this is going to be an opportunity for me to network, to meet someone. But they were talking about pornography, and I had seen porn for the first time when I was 13, and I had been very promiscuous throughout high school and college. So, like the thought of like doing porn, it had never crossed my mind, but because the way that I live my life and because of the things I've been exposed to, it wasn't something that was as it should be. Like this is not an option. Like this is crazy. Like absolutely no way I would do that. But because I live my life some sort of way, it made the thing that most people would never do something that I considered doing, and they introduced me to their agent, and their agent asked me through questions. And in retrospect, it's like really great ammunition to manipulate someone. They asked, how did I grow up? What was I doing in LA? And what did I hope to accomplish? And,
Mm,
I said, it was pretty much me and my mom growing up. So, okay, number one, he comes from a broken home.
yeah.
I'm in LA, trying to model and act, and I guess want to be famous. And you know, when I think back, it's like I didn't really want to be famous. Like I did want to be successful, like in what I was doing. I still love the arts. Like I live to be creative in a way that impacts people, in a positive way, or prompts them to chase after their dreams or pursue a better life. Like I love that. That's still who I am. But in that time period of my life, I really wanted to feel seen. I
Yeah.
wanted to feel loved, and I think he knew that. He knew like this guy comes from a broken home and he's seeking affirmation. And he's like, I can make you famous. I can make you the guy. You can use acting in this industry. The industry is changing where they're making like parodies of real movies and there's scripts and there's all this stuff. So it'll be advantageous to you to use your acting in the industry. And
Mhm.
I knew it was a bad idea. I knew I shouldn't have done it, but I did. I did one, and as soon as I did one, it absolutely destroyed everything that I was working towards and that I had obtained. So my agent, my mainstream agent, as soon as the scene that I did got enough traction where my name was tied to it, called me, hey, we can't represent you anymore. We can't be associated with that. And then seemed like a few days later, my mom calls me, and she had heard through the grapevine that her son was doing these pornographic movies, asking me if it was true, and I couldn't lie to her, but I was humiliated.
Yeah.
Um, so that's how I ended up in the industry, and stayed in that industry, like you said, stayed in that industry for a little over 6 years, did 1,000 films, and it really took me to a really dark place.
Yeah, yeah, wow. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious about a few things. Like before you got started with that first film, did you think that this could be a stepping stone into doing what you originally wanted to do, like actual like real movies? Or did you kind of know that the moment you said yes, that this was going to be a different path that you took with your life?
Yeah, that's a great question. So regarding it being a stepping stone, um, I knew that the cost. I knew once I did that it would kind of, you know it would stop me from ever having the successful career that I had hoped for. But what I did believe was I wasn't good enough to
Mm,
actually have success in that industry, and
yeah.
I was willing to accept what I knew to be a counterfeit version of my dream. But I thought, well, because I'm inadequate and I don't really value myself, I'm going to accept this counterfeit version of my dreams because maybe that's as close as I would be able to get. So it was kind of the sad reality of, when you believe a lie to be true, it's true to you, and you create this plausible reality in which you see the world through that lie. You see yourself, you see other people, you see opportunities, you see everything through that lie. And I really believe that I wasn't good enough. And it's so funny in retrospect because like I was 22 at the time and I was doing pretty good.
Mhm.
But in comparison to my peers, which I didn't grade myself on an appropriate scale. I looked at, okay, who is the most successful people in my circle,
Yeah.
and if I'm not as successful as they are, I must not be good enough.